Hey guys, it's Donald the solorpg guy here, coming back at you with another video. In today's video, we are going to go over the Lords of Midnight solo adventure game, Morkin. This was given to me by its creator, Juan-Diaz Bustamante. I think that's how you pronounce it. First of all, let me say that the book is of excellent quality, good paper stock. You can tell that the creator did put a lot of time and effort into making this book. Now, don't let the thick volume fool you. There is really only 65 pages worth of rules. The rest of the book, if you look at the table of contents, there's only 65 pages worth of rules. Starting from page 66, you get a list of events that are going to occur as you travel. There are currently 153 different events. There's also a series of quests, 60 in all. Plus you get a bestiary, some various unique components, and a compilation of tables at the back. If you order the hard copy, you will also get this very large adventure map. You will get dungeon crawl sheets, which I recommend you either print off a couple or photocopy a few, because you are going to go into many different dungeons. He's also been kind enough to provide you with some hex paper if you wish to document your travels that way. You also get another smaller version of the map, which I recommend you also make a copy of, so you can mark down and keep track of your adventures that way without messing up the map. And that way, if you want to play it again with a different version of Morkin, you can. You also get an adventure sheet to keep track of your calendar, quartered days, battle board, etc. You also will get a copy of the character sheet. Again, I recommend that you make copies, that way you don't mess up the original. And then you also get a printout for the player reference guide, which contains all the various little tables and rules and little flow charts to help you with the game. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the PDF viewer so you can see the contents of the book a whole lot clearer. Real quick before I switch over to the PDF viewer, just want to thank Juan for sending me a copy of the game. He did include this nice little card here, which for me works out great because it doubles as a bookmark, so I can keep track of where I am and what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to take a look here at the credits page, and all the links that you see here will be down in the description below. The web page, Discord, Instagram, and Facebook. Obviously, it was designed by Juan, developed under the license from www.lordsofmidnight.com. And then further down, there's some testers, who created the maps, editors, consultants, and games in which this game draws inspiration from. And having read the rules, I can see a lot of Cur Nathalis, which I own, D100 Dungeon, Forbidden Lands. Like Forbidden Lands, the day when you travel was broken down the quarter days. He did that very similar to that in this game, and of course all the acknowledgments. Slide through here, you can see the table of contents. the flow of play, how to do combat, various conditions, and a list of all the events. As I said, there's quite a few events. 153 total events, and then there's a series of quests involved, up to 60. And of course, you get your bestiary, some unique components, and a compilation of all the tables and whatnot. Playing this game on different maps, playing with a GM, and of course copies of the character sheet, adventure sheet, and all the maps and cavern sheets. We have a special memoriam to Mike Singleton. This game is based on the strategy and adventure fantasy game The Lords of Midnight by Mike Singleton, first released for the ZX Spectrum in 1984. This game is often listed among the top role-playing and strategy games of the 1980s. I don't recall the ZX Spectrum. I think in that heyday we were knee-deep in the Atari system. It also tells you, because this is a role-playing pen and paper game, there are some slight changes to the base game. The introduction. Doomdark, once known as the Griffallen the Wise, was a cunning advisor among the Wise, a group of powerful sorcerers. He rose to power by serving the Lord Ashkenark, whom he helped become king. Driven by ambition, though, Griffallen betrayed and murdered Ashkenark. I know I'm butchering that name. Seizing the crown and ruling through fear and dark sorcery. Over time, his name was changed to Doomdark, the Witch King of Midnight, a title that reflected the terror he inspired. Basically, it goes through more of the story. Your mission is to undertake a perilous quest to find and destroy Doomdark's source of power, the Ice Crown. As Doomdark prepares to unleash his might during the solstice, the leaders of the Free realize that conventional battle alone may not be enough to stop him. Morkin, which will be the character you will be playing, being half human, half fae, is uniquely resistant to the Doomdark's ice fear. Though Luxor, the Moon Prince, the leader of the Free, was initially reluctant to send his young son on such a perilous journey, Morkin's mixed heritage makes him the one and only capable of resisting the Ice Crown's dark magic. His mission is clear: reach the Tower of Doom, seize the Ice Crown, and destroy it to shatter Doomdark's power, giving him hope to the Free in their struggle against the Witch King. And there's some more background information. Where the Land of Midnight is a frozen realm where icy grip of the Ice Crown holds dominion over the landscape. I kind of picture a Game of Thrones North of the Wall kind of feel, or take Star Wars Hoth and put a bad guy in charge with dark power. It also gives you some background about the game. It's for solo play, where you must guide the hero Morkin on an impossible mission to destroy the Ice Crown. And then you will begin in the Tower of the Moon within the Forest of Shadows, alongside the Luxor Moon Prince, Korith the Fae, and Rothorn the Wise. However, unlike the computer game, you will only control Morkin. Lauren, Korith, and Rothron will head to the east to rally the forces of the Free and the Fae, and even attempt to convince the Targ to join the war against the Doomdark. Things you will need to play: obviously this book, pencil and eraser, some paper, the character sheets, adventure sheets, which I recommend you make copies of. That way you can play it again and again with a different version of Morkin. Dice, which I believe this game just uses the D10 and D6. Recommend that if you have percentile dice, you use those, as you will be making a lot of percentile rolls. This game is based on a version of the D100 system, similar to D100 Dungeon, Mithras, BRP, and all the other percentile-based games where you're trying to roll lower than a task number based on your skills and whatnot. And And then, of course, the standard dice rolling things, which most role players fully understand what all that means. It's also recommended that you keep a journal of your experiences during the quest. This will deepen your immersion of the story and help you track your progress. You will be given a map to keep track of where you are. You can download a free copy or just print off multiple copies if you buy the PDF. The map is divided into hexagons. Each hexagon represents 2 miles, covering the part of the western region of Midnight. And your journey will begin at the Tower of the Moon, located in the Forest of Shadows. When you enter caverns and runes, you will switch to the Rune and Cavern sheet, which is also available as a free download or at the back of the book. The sheet allows you to sketch out the rooms of the runes and caverns as you explore them. Morkin has a general sense of his destination's location, but the exact path remains uncertain. Midnight is a perilous land, and the villages scattered across it have been so isolated that people often don't know the precise location of places only a few days' journey away. You also got a few terrain types: plains, mountains, forests, downs, and frozen wastes. There are also various sites throughout the place that you may encounter that can provide shelter, guidance, or unforeseen dangers. And then, of course, they got the icons which represent the various locations on the map. There are a few special sites which have dedicated events in the special sites table, and you can find those tables at the end of the book. They are marked with numbers on the map, and then here are those special sites listed here. Here you get a basic description of your destination, the Tower of Doom. It is a maze of dark winding corridors and icy chambers. The air is frigid, with each breath hanging in the air like a fog. Blue torches line the walls, casting eerie, flickering shadows. The upper levels of the tower are reached via a grand spiral staircase that seems to stretch endlessly upward, each step echoing ominously throughout the corridors. And then there's a nice little picture of the Tower of Doom. Dun dun dun! As stated previously, your goal is to destroy the Ice Crown. Victory will belong to the free, and you will have won the game. At last, Midnight will be freed from perpetual cold and the evil that has plagued it. Alright, now you got the background of the game. Let's get into character creation. Character creation is quite easy. There are 4 attributes in the game: strength, dexterity, intelligence, and charisma. And then you will assign, the way it works is you will assign 50 points to the attribute you want to enhance the most, 40 to the second, 30 to the third, and 20 to the last. And just record those values appropriately on your character sheet. You then have a list of skills. These determine what you have learned in the past. And if you have a 60 in forage, then you have a 60% chance of succeeding when foraging, as an example. And then the method in which you will determine your starting skills is based on your attributes. And then here I'll give you a list of some of the skills and what attribute is associated with them and how to figure out your various skills. There, as you can see, there's a number of skills in the game. And then once you've done with that, you can distribute an additional 50 points among the available skills, with a maximum of 60 points per skill. And when this game requires a check, you will roll your D100. Equal or lower than Morkin's skill value, the check is successful. Note that certain events or items may temporarily modify these skill values. And then, of course, it gives you an example of how to do things. Finally, you will choose one specialization. Determine which area you are most skilled. It will grant you an additional advantage in one skill or in certain situations. Keep in mind that you cannot exceed 60 points in any skill, though later on you may be able to do so as you improve your character as he advances, and then through special bonuses. And then there's a list of the masteries right there: Weapon Master, Shield Master, Scout, Ranger, Locksmith, Animal Trainer, Medic, Harvester, Hunter, Pathfinder, Shadow Stalker. And then you just make the finishing touches on your character sheet. Your health points, your defense value, a fatigue value, the bandages, rations, lockpicks, money. Set your experience points to 0. You spend your coins on equipment. You start off with 40 silver coins, and then you get a little bonus based on your charisma. Charisma in most games is treated as a dump stat. You may not want to treat your charisma, though, as a dump stat, only because charisma will also determine the prices you pay for the various equipment and whatnot in the game. It's sort of like, I guess, a built-in haggling skill. Hey, they don't like you, they charge you more. They like you, they'll charge you a little less. And I'll probably show an example of that later on in this video. You also start with a horse. You also got rules for encumbrance. Okay, we're now going to get into character progression. Each time you defeat an enemy, you earn experience points. You will also gain some experience points for successfully defeating the quest. For every 20 XP you accumulate, you may increase one attribute of your choice by a point. And then you apply that to your skills associated to that attribute following these steps. Skills that rely solely on the chosen attribute will increase by 2 points, and skills that are partially dependent on that attribute will increase by 1 point. Remember, no skill can ever exceed 80. You can only exceed this maximum through bonuses provided by companions or special items. And once the points are allocated, deduct the corresponding amount of experience points from your character sheet. Another way you can increase your skills is by rolling a crit. Whenever you roll a critical roll, which is a roll of 5 or less on the skill check, you can immediately increase the relevant skill point by 1 up to its maximum level of 80. The melee and defense skills, however, improve differently. Whenever you roll a critical during an attack, you may choose to increase either his melee or his defense skill by 1 point, as he learns from the precision of the blow or the flow of the combat itself. And then it gives you a little example right there. Here it goes into the general flow of play. The game is played in turns, with each turn representing a day, and each day is divided into 4 quarters. For those of you who are familiar with Forbidden Lands, you will recognize that. You have 30 days to complete your mission. If you do not succeed in destroying the Ice Crown within that time, you will lose, as Doomdark's armies will have conquered Midnight, strengthened by their superior forces and the Ice Sphere emanating from the Ice Crown. And that's what you use that adventure sheet to keep track of, or you can just simply keep track of it in a journal. You follow these steps. You will check the weather, because the weather will affect certain things. And then you will check each of your players that are in your group to verify, any effects like poisoning, bleeding, hunger, or exhaustion, as they will also impact the game. You will also check the fear or the ice fear level. The ice fear level ranges on a scale from 1 to 3. You have 30, like I said, you have 30 days to complete your mission. For the first 10 days, the ice fear level is at 1. Days 11 through 20, it's at 2. And then 21 through 30, it's at 3. And this primarily affects your chance in recruiting the various companions along the way. And then you will start your new quarter of the day. You will choose your action for that day. And then if it's at night, you will do a nighttime check. If it's not night, you return to step 4, rinse and repeat. And then, of course, here's a chart here for the weather and how it'll affect your skills and various things. Conditions, this goes over the ice sphere again. Quarters of the day, you may choose only one action per quarter of the day, and here's a list of the actions you can approach. That's when you're trying to recruit the character that is present. Camp, which is only available at night. Fish, only at lakes. Forage, only outdoors. Hunt, only outdoors. Rest, not available at night. That's just you pretty much sitting down, eating a ration, and just taking a quick break on your travel. Or you can travel. And there's also Seek, which is only done at a site. You mark the action down and proceed with the play. For the final quarter night, you may choose any action except rest, though the most common is camp, as it involves sleeping and recovering health and fatigue, which we all know how important that can be. And then here is a little flow chart to show you how it works. Simple, easy. Flowcharts are great because they help you, organize things better. And then it'll give you some examples here. If you choose camp, you must pass a camp skill. If you fail, you roll on the camp trouble table. Feel that Forbidden Lands feel coming in? Here it describes the actions in detail. Like I said, there's approach, which usually has to do with recruiting a character that is present. There are some exceptions to this rule as far as who may be affected by the fear level. Obviously, there's a Dragon Lord and a Skullcrin who will automatically join your party without requiring any approach action. Then, of course, it goes deeper into the camp skills. There's some various charts there. Fishing, you need food. A fishing mishap table, forage mishap table, a successful foraging table. What happens when you hunt? Resting, seeking, and then traveling. And then here are the rules for using the Caverns and Ruins exploration sheet. How to handle darkness, drawing your map, quest room rules, how to determine your number of doors and passages, etc. There are some exceptions at these various locations as listed here. And then, of course, a similar action for the cavern exploration sequence. Dun, dun, dun. Give you a quick scan of that. Companions. Along the way, you can recruit some companions. They have the when they're usually found at special sites. For simplicity, you will recruit their lord rather than their entire armies, as in the original computer game. Nevertheless, these companions can often make a difference between life and death. When you arrive at the special site and check the special sites table, you may be informed that someone, usually a lord, is present there. And then you keep the following points in mind when recruiting a companion. To recruit a companion, you perform the approach action, which consumes 1/4 of the day, and then you roll a d6 to determine the result based on the current ice level, or the ice sphere level, which basically if you roll whatever's that equivalent level, then they do not join your party. On any other result, they agree to join your party, and then you add them to your character sheet and follow the companion rules. And then here are the rules for handling your companions. They will eat. You got to keep track of their hit points. Fatigue is only tracked from Morkin, however. Companions do not contribute additional fatigue to Morkin if they are without horses. And then, of course, you may dismiss a companion at any time by removing them from your list. However, once they dismissed, you can never recruit them again. And here is a list of companions and how they will affect your character. You will take these bonuses and add them to your character. So, for example, if you have the Lord of Shadows with you, you'll get a +3 to your melee skill, +2 to your defense skill. You will do an additional point of damage, +2 to perception. You will get a +10 on foraging, and he shows up with 6 rations. And then you do the same thing for all the other companions as you acquire them. Alright, let's get into how combat works. First of all, combat in Morkin is always melee, it's always close range, and it's without cover. And your combatants alternate turns until one flees or is defeated. And when you encounter one or more enemies in a location, and it's stated they attack you or you decide to attack them, combat ensues. And follow these general basic outline below. You have the chance to flee before combat. Ensure that the enemies haven't spotted you. You attempt this by making a stealth score check. And then, of course, it gives you the results if you succeed, fail, etc. or you can throw a fog stone to escape without rolling any dice. Initiative. You will roll opposed percentile skill checks against your enemy to determine who acts first. If there is more than one enemy, roll once for all the enemies using the highest perception value among them. The winner gains the initiative and attacks first. And then, of course, it gives you the breakdown of what happens if both succeed, both sides fail, etc. Combat order. This is kind of important. If you have companions in your group, you decide the order in which all the members, including Morkin, will engage the combat. The combat order is crucial because it establishes a turn-based sequence for your group when taking damage. Each time an enemy successfully attacks and deals damage, the hit will be taken by a different member of the defending group, followed in the established order. However, the combat order does not affect attacks, as only Morkin performs them, aided by the bonuses provided by his companions, as shown previously. Each round has what you call action points. You have 10 action points in which to do your tasks. You will lose unused action points if you don't use them. They do not carry over to the next turn. You can combine actions as a single turn as long as you have enough points, and then you recover all your action points at the end of your turn, and then start over. And then here's a list of standard attack, drinking a potion, first aid, assisting a companion, desperate attack, aiming for a weak spot, switching weapons, applying venom, dodge, defend, etc. And then it gets into the mechanics of how you attack. Each turn the attacker rolls a d100, and the result must meet two conditions to succeed in striking an opponent. The attacker must roll a number equal to or below their melee skill check to succeed in the attack. And additionally, the attacker must roll higher than half of the defender's defense skill, referred to as the defense value. This ensures that the defender's ability to block or evade is taken into account. There is, however, one exception: a critical hit. A critical hit will occur if either you or the enemy rolls less than a 5 on the melee skill check. This means the strike is so precise and powerful that the defense value is ignored. And then for enemies, you will have a list for each enemy, and if Morkin rolls less than 5, you roll on this critical hit table to determine what happened. If, however, you roll a 100 on the melee skill, you have fumbled. And then, of course, you roll a d6 and consult this fumble table. There is also rules here for fleeing combat. If you wish to flee during combat, you may do so instead of making a melee check. And to flee successfully, you must pass the defense skill check. And if you succeed, your opponent gets one free attack and may roll damage if the attack hits. If you succeed in fleeing, you can escape to the previous hexagon or an adjacent one if the previous hexagon is blocked for some reason. Always move in the same direction from which you came. When you return, the same enemies will be present with their hit points fully restored. And then, of course, it tells you how to do damage, which is just standard. You roll damage and then subtract it from their hit points. If they are equipped with any gear, the absorption value of the gear is taken into account, especially if they're wearing armor, and then there's rules for that. Some enemies do have multiple strikes, each dealing varying amounts of damage depending on the strike performed. To determine which strike is used, roll on the d6 enemy table. And then it goes over the rules for that. What happens if you die? The healing rules. The various conditions that you may suffer from: being hungry, exhausted, poisoned, or bleeding. And then you are ready to start your game. And here is the start of the game, where you will begin your journey towards the Tower of Doom with the goal of destroying that ice crown, the source of the Doomdark's power. You are alone with no army to support you. However, thanks to your half-human, half-fey nature, you can endure the extreme cold emanating from the ice crown. I'm going to skip over the events table and the quest table to keep that in suspense and not spoil anything, but I just wanted to show you what the stats look like for your average creature. You get their base hit points, their melee skill, their defense skill, their defense value, their perception skill, and how many XP they're worth. You also get a list here of what happens on a normal hit, a critical hit, or if they fumble. And then, of course, the bandit loot, or not just in this case the bandit, but the loot table associated with said creature. Just to give you a general idea of the importance of that charisma score, here is the armor equipment table, and you will see its absorption value, but more importantly, you will see its buying price if you have greater than a 30 charisma, or its selling price if you have less than a 30 charisma. Your buying and selling prices with a 30 charisma, and your buying price with a less than 30 charisma, or you're trying to sell it with a greater than 30 charisma. As you can see, if you have a lower charisma, then items will cost you a bit more. If you have a high charisma, they will cost you less, and you can sell them for more. So take that into account when you build your character. And that is my overview of the Lords of Midnight solo adventure game Morkin. I've created a character, and now I am going to go give this game a whirl. If you want me to make a video of me playing this game, let me know in the comments below. If there's enough interest, I will produce a video of me playing Morkin, going to find that ice crown and destroy it, and hopefully save the world from the forces of evil. I'd like to thank Juan for sending me a copy of the game. You can tell that it is definitely a labor of love. He put a lot of thought into the game. He didn't just throw together a bunch of junk like I've seen a lot of solo player creating stuff. He literally well thought out, well designed game, and I'd just like to thank him for sending me this copy and reviewing it. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and until my next video, happy gaming.